Steve Brand here. I'm going to talk about mentorship. You know, as I look back on my career, the most satisfying moments, even though I've had successes of my own in my career as an entrepreneur and as a business owner and professor, the most inspiring moments is being a mentor. And, the other day I got an email from a student said, what you told me 5 years ago still resonates. And I use what you talked with me about to help me as my career progresses. Is those memories. And I get those calls like very regularly that this is something I would never expect and I don't anticipate it. But when it comes, it feels like all the time I have put into sitting one-on-one with an early stage entrepreneur, helping them think it through. And the one thing we realize is even though not everyone we mentor will become an entrepreneur, it will be valuable to them in whatever they do if you help them think in new ways and look at the world differently. So being a mentor is extremely powerful. You have the power to inspire and help and move people forward. You also have the power to stop them in their tracks, to be negative and to scare them for what they're doing. And you need to make them feel good about what they're doing. Yes, it is risky. Being an entrepreneur is like really risky. You may not succeed and you may hit up obstacles. And, I always say when entrepreneurs don't talk about challenges, they haven't tried hard enough. So that's something you need to help them through, help them walk through the process so you can make them think that maybe this will pass, this challenge will pass. I also think now that we're in the COVID world, I think part of it is having that optimism to help them realize that this too will be over at some point. And what will you do now? And what will you do when it's over? Otherwise, instead of saying, just stop right now and go get a job, which is also challenging in these times. So when you think of being a mentor, and most of you are already committed to that, is first think about what it takes to be a good mentor, as opposed to not being a good mentor. Deep curiosity. You always are asking questions. You care about what other people think, and you look at it through the eyes of other people. You have a deep sense of empathy, but you ask a ton of questions so that you can understand. You have that curiosity before making any judgment at all. You have a sense of experience that other people don't have. It doesn't mean you need to have the exact experience of your entrepreneurs. It means you have experience that makes you wise and thoughtful and asking good questions. Because the worst mentor is one that says, well, I did it this way and this is how you should do it. And the less experienced mentors actually do that more so than more experienced, because the more you know, or the more you learn, the less you really know all the answers, and you're wise about that. You need a passion for new ideas. When a new idea comes up, it's so easy to exert your sense of experience and say, I don't think that'll work. But you have to have a passion for those new ideas and helping them move them along and nurture them and grow them. And then have them do the work and the research and the analysis to say, maybe this is not a great idea, but it should come from them. You can give them your advice periodically, but be careful not to do it too soon in the process. You need to be an internal optimist. Think about things from a positive perspective. I hate when mentors are negative all the time. They think they're experts. They think they know everything. They're saying, look, I don't really know. That's a horrible idea. I've seen it before. What you need to do is direct them to a place to find the data that suggests maybe they need to say, something, I need to pivot. I need to tweak this. You need to be a great listener, more so than a great talker. Some people think that because they have the expertise, when they're engaged as a mentor, they got permission to give all the answers. But being a great listener will make people feel better. And that's your job, is to make them feel better about themselves, about what they're doing. Good sense of humor is always good. Make it feel comfortable, make it feel light, even though they're working on a serious problem, is to make it fun to hang out with you. And also you have to have the ability to be wrong, because people are wrong. I mean, even though you may have been in the same field with the same line of products, think about it. How different is the world today during COVID than it was a year ago? The same products won't work in the same way. And even if there was no COVID, even your idea may not work today. The business world changes extremely fast. And you need to give people the chance to try things, even if you did it 20 times and it didn't work. However, your expertise could help them. So ask those hard questions to get them to realize some of these things on their own, and be open-minded, just like being an optimist, being open-minded that you might be wrong and that they might have ideas and they might be smarter than you, which actually happens more than not. Especially young people that, in college or just out of college, they actually, in some cases, are smarter than us because they had a different education than us. So be ready for that. Be open-minded about what they know, and don't just discount them because they're 18 or 19. And you need to make the time commitment. Even though you may say, well, I'm committed to 1 hour a month. Think about it that when they're in a crisis or things are urgent, they might reach out to you. I'm making a VC pitch tomorrow. Can you just give me 20 minutes? I mentor a lot of people, and I'll get these emails. Here's a proposal I'm sending out. Can you look at it? I'm like, okay, I can get to it in 4 days. No, it's due tomorrow. And the first comment was like, I don't have time for it. Or just make the time and help them out, because in the end, they're going to feel good about the fact that you helped them, even in a pinch, even if they were wrong and reaching out last minute. Now you need to get some rules in there about when they can reach out to you. So when you get assigned to a mentor, a mentee, think about what you're going to do before you actually meet them. You might have met them in a networking event, in some other social environment, or you might have met them in some other way. They've done research with you or whatever. But first, you should research that person that you're mentoring. Research who they are, what they've done, look at their LinkedIn profile, do a search on Google, find out what they've been doing and what they've accomplished. In this day and age, besides LinkedIn, it's very hard for someone not to show up in a Google search. Check out their industry. You may know nothing about their industry, which may be intriguing to you. You might know nothing about AI, and that's what the field that they're in, and that's like fascinating for you. You might be able to learn from it. Make sure that you do this great research so that you're prepared and you know the questions to ask versus the answers to give. Make sure there's no conflict of interest. And I see that in a couple of places. First of all, make sure you have no clients that may be a competitor, that you're not a competitor, or that you have to be really cautious not to take their ideas and do something with it. So if you feel that there may be a conflict in that area, then you need to speak up early and tell the organizer of this program thing, I don't know, I don't really think I should work with this person. Can you assign me to somebody else? Make sure that you have excitement about their field, even if it's new to you and you know nothing about it. That goes back to the curiosity. If your curiosity about almost anything, then almost any field can be interesting. And if you find something that someone has, it's just so bland to you, you might ask them to excite you about it, or you might just step away from it because you really need to be passionate about it. Start off with an introductory email. Who are you? What have you done? A little bit about your background, and you're looking forward to meeting them. You're looking forward to working with them. You're looking forward to learning about their ideas and their experience. You're curious about their journey to date. What have they done? What kind of behavior have they exerted when they're doing their initial work? Now, of course, this is going to be different if someone is in revenue or already has customers, as opposed to if they just have this idea that they wrote down on the back of a napkin. You're looking to learn from them. You're looking for your career to be better because you're going to be spending time with them. And tell them that you're not an expert in everything, that you may be an expert in something, but your goal is to be curious and learn how to understand their field and understand what they do, and let them feel welcome. Make sure that they anticipate when that first meeting occurs that they're welcomed by a person who is warm and supportive. Yes, you may be a little hard on people and tough sometimes, but make them feel that you're going to be a great person to talk with and they can trust you and respect you, which is so important. Be prepared to ask some questions that allows you to learn what they've been doing. So prepare a list of questions. Don't go all out, but be prepared to really understand not just their field, what they know about their field, but their journey to date. What activities have they done? And if they don't have any research on the field, you're going to help them get there. And then you should be prepared to tell your story, and you should tell them in the pre-email, like, can you be ready to tell your story so I understand where the idea came from? What inspired you? Was it a problem you had? Was it a family crisis? Was it something you learned in school? Like, where did it come from? Is it just like you read the newspaper or you saw something online that said this is a field that you want to be in? And so you should ask them to be prepared to tell their story and leave it at that. That's a lot, but that should prepare you. Again, you're taking this seriously, be prepared. Your first meeting. If it's happening during COVID, it's going to have to be online probably. I guess it could be, in a real place, distance. distant from each other, but decide where you're going to meet and be really clear about it. Don't say, oh, we'll meet at that restaurant. Like, be really clear. That's what you're going to do later down the road when there's no COVID, but try to be really clear about it and be very clear about when you're meeting. Don't say, let's meet on Tuesday. Be extremely specific. I'm available at 10 o'clock, or I'm available from 9 to 12, whatever it is. Be clear, so that some people are very vague about that kind of stuff. So be clear. This is when I'm available, and I use Zoom or I use Skype or whatever you use, and let's be really clear about it. And once you commit to that time, make sure it's in everyone's calendar. When you first meet, let them go first. Say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and tell me about what you're doing. Tell me a little bit about your background, where you came from, where this idea came from. Let's get started that way. And then do a very brief introduction for yourself, and then ask them what they want to know about your background. Now, this will give you some indication on how curious they are. They want to know where you went to college. They want to know what kind of business you've done. If they know about entrepreneurship, they say, what have you failed at? And don't feel uncomfortable talking about it, because failure leads to success. And then ask them, after you've gotten that back and forth on that, is how can you help them in their venture? How can you help them? It's so easy to make an assumption of what you can give them. But what you want them to do is saying, I need help with this. And that will change all the time. And you need to keep on asking that question in the beginning of every session, is how can you help them? And then ask them what they're looking for in a mentor. What do they want? Do they want someone that's curious? Do they want someone that tells them what to do? And be clear about what they want, so that you can help them in a way that is valuable and helpful. And then say, gives you a good chance to really dig in, is like, what don't you know? What assumptions do you have about your field that you need confirmed or discounted? And you don't want them to say, I know everything. You want them to say, well, I think this is what the product does in the field. This is what I think my competition is. Like, they may start talking about that and say, well, how do you know that? Keep on pushing for evidence. What evidence that suggests that you know this? And then if they have none, tell them to go out there. I have a big thing about writing other people's script for them. They may say, well, I know that this happens in the field. I said, how do you know that? I don't know. This makes sense to me. Now you need to say, don't write anybody's script for them. You need to go out there and find that out. Establish norms. How often are you going to meet? How much time? Is it weekly or every other week? How many meetings are going to be? How the meetings are going to be structured? What to do when things are not going well, when there's a tension. Set up some rules about that. Talk about accountability. How accountable do they want to be? Are they going to make a commitment at the end of each session and make it available the next time they're ready to go? And if they're not, how are you going to handle that? And what happens when they don't do what they say they're going to do? It doesn't mean they have to do everything, but they say, well, I didn't do this, and not looking for excuses, but this is my obstacle that kept me from making this happen. And how are we going to measure that accountability? How are we going to measure your success? Maybe create a dashboard in a Google Doc or something like that. How do we measure what you're doing? And what's the best way to give you constructive feedback? Ask them that question, because some people want it straight out. Tell me what you're thinking. Be really honest with me. And some people's like, be really nice to me. I'm very sensitive. I get hurt easily. And those are really critical, so you can be valuable and supportive and helpful. Again, make sure in that first meeting any conflict of interest comes out. The commitment to secrecy, if that's necessary, or confidentiality, you need to be clear about that, so they know they can trust you with anything they want to say, and you want to make that clear. And I'm not really sure if the program that you're working is going to require you to sign anything, but sort of the ethics around the field of mentoring entrepreneurs is that you will not steal any of the ideas. Actually, you are not, depends on the program, you can't go into business with them or get a percentage of the business or whatever. Be clear about that so everyone understands where we all stand. And then talk about the next meeting. What are they going to do? What are they going to accomplish? What research do they need to do? What will you do? Although it's more going to be about what they're going to do. What gaps do they have in their knowledge that they can fill between this meeting and the next? Again, what are they looking for you to provide? Now, how often the meeting occurs, you may want to do more regular meetings in the beginning, like the first 2 or 3 meetings might be weekly, and then you spread it out when there's other kinds of things going on. When you get to the second meeting, and so you start off by saying, what have you accomplished since last meeting? Any new piece of information, any other questions you have that I can help you with. So be really clear from the beginning. The one thing they're going to ask you for most of the time, they want introductions. Either experts they'll find something on LinkedIn. Oh, do you know this person? Do you know that person? Can you make an introduction? I see you're in this field. I need to know that. And by the way, it's not all introductions to people who are exactly in their field, but it's people who can help them, like someone who's big in like exporting or IT or whatever. I think the important thing there is that the people you mentor need to know that introductions are a gift. It's a value, it's a gem that they can't get on their own. So they need to make a commitment to you on how to deal with those introductions. They need to respect them and respect you for giving them. This is sort of you pull it out of your contact file and say, look, I'm giving this to you. Please don't screw it up. And you don't have to say that, but please don't screw it up. This is someone, my network is a currency that I use. So like money, it's a currency that I use to help people and also help myself in the work that I do. So when if you make an introduction, you send an introduction. First, ask the people you're introducing them to if they don't mind talking to an entrepreneur. Give them a brief introduction, and then tell your mentee what you're going to do, and then send an email that lists both of them. Say, I know I've talked to both of you about this. And then you need to request and require from your mentee a response to say, okay, here's, to CC you on certainly the first few introductory conversations between them and the person that they're talking with. And it's just really important because I have found so many times where I make an introduction and the entrepreneur never follows up. And then 2 months later, the person I introduced them to sends me notes like, I never heard from so-and-so. So you want to be kept in the loop because this is, again, your currency. So make sure that they keep you informed as to what's going on. Even a month later, oh, by the way, so-and-so just, made a business deal with me. And that's fine because they're not the mentor. They're giving you advice and they might be a good person to talk to. But make sure they communicate back with you so you know what's going on, especially if something goes wrong. I've had people who make introductions to other people, and then that person is really a bad egg and caused a problem for them. And you want to know never to make that introduction. I have a friend who was introduced to an IT person, and he came on board, and before you know it, he had the keys to their IT, all their passwords and everything, and he screwed her over. And then when they had a money debate, he basically closed up all their systems, and she had to close the business. So this is extremely important. These introductions are critical, and teach them how to embrace and engage with these outside people. Follow through with milestones in the second meeting. Follow through. What are you doing? How did what did you accomplish? What's the accountability? And then when challenges arise, whenever, in between meetings, how should they reach out to you? Or if challenges between you and your mentee. The last thing I want to talk about is celebration. Please ask them at the beginning of each session, so what have you accomplished this week? What are you excited about? What surprised you? What didn't go well? But to celebrate their success, because you say, well, that's amazing. I've worked with people for years and no one's ever accomplished that. So be really complimentary about what they've accomplished. And if they really struggle, be helpful and trustworthy. And you want them to trust to even share things with you. You don't want to only give you good news. And a lot of people have that problem where they only give good news. So I think it's important for you to really celebrate and then deal with some of the challenges. So the most important thing is to respect the person, even though they may be younger than you, even though they're less experienced than you, is you need to respect them and build the trust. And every meeting you have is about building trust and building the relationship and having them feel comfortable with you. And if there's a discomfort, let them tell you what's going on. Or you could even say this to them, is please, if you're uncomfortable with me, go over to the organization and say, this is not working. I need help. I need to get out of this. Or they might help you navigate it. So maybe a third party could come in and be part of the conversation. So have fun with it. You actually, as I said before, you have the ability to make a difference in someone's life and actually create a great venture that's going to provide value to the world, society, and other business entities. And so that's your job. That's what you're doing for a mentorship. You're doing good things for people. Just don't screw it up. I say that almost, jokingly, but please take that responsibility. How important that is. Take that to heart and making sure that you are doing the right thing and acting responsibly and ethically and with a commitment to helping these folks be successful and providing value to the world. And if you sense anything's going wrong ethically or business-wise, speak up and have a conversation about it. So thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing the results of your work and the people you're working with. Thank you.